Well, spring is in the air. It's not quite spring yet, but we're getting real close. So this is the end of February. You know, it's usually going to be somewhere around the end of April, beginning of May before I plant things out. But it's a fairly decent day today. We got some rain coming over the next couple of days. So it's a good day to go ahead and get some garden prep done and get ready for that. Really, it's best to probably do this garden prep in the fall, but I didn't get around to it. So this is fine. So the garden prep's pretty easy, honestly. I've cleaned up most of the garden. There's still some sticks and things I need to clean up, but other than cleanup work, basically all I gotta do is pull the landscape fabric off the rows, and I'm gonna lay down some compost. I went down to the compost facility this morning, loaded up a load of compost, and now it's time to get it on the garden. So, you know, it's not super exciting stuff, but, you know, I don't know, if you're a new gardener, maybe this is stuff you need to know, and it's what I got to get done, so I'm bringing you guys along with me. And it's a little chilly out. I've got the jacket on right now, but I think as I start working, probably need to peel the jacket off. It's not terrible. It's mid-50s today. So I'm going to bring you guys along with me as I do some garden work today. Hopefully you enjoy it. All right, so this is kind of the garden layout right here. These are my planting rows right here. This one's already peeled back a little bit because I had a little bit of compost out of my compost facility, or my compost pile, I should say. This row right here is already done. I've just done that with mostly rabbit manure and a little bit of compost. And then I've gone over the top with these shredded leaves right here. Just shredded leaves over the top of this garden bed after I put the compost or rabbit manure or whatever down. I don't have enough rabbit manure to throw on all the rows, so I'm using compost where I don't have rabbit manure. This row right here, which is where I usually plant my tomatoes and peppers and things, is mostly rabbit manure, not compost, but I did have a little bit of compost I threw on some of it. So anyway, long story short, this is where we're at. So what I gotta do is get these row covers up, do a little bit of cleanup work here, and then we'll get to spreading some compost out. You know, these row covers are pretty easy to pull up. I do need to think about it now, need to get this, there we go. It can just lay right here. They're just held in by staples, so as I go, I'm rolling it up, I'll just pull the staples out. Some of them, pull them out and then stick them back in the underlying ground cover so I don't have any problems. So it's a little bit tedious because it's back and forth across, but it's really not that big of a deal, not that hard. I just need to get these pulled up. You know, one of the really nice things about using this landscape fabric, I mean, it keeps the weeds out. I mean, there's no weeds. You might be able to see as I pull it up. I mean, this is just bare ground. There's no weeds underneath it, so it keeps the weeds out, helps keep the ground, you know, holds moisture, so you don't have to water nearly as much, but it's also super easy to clean up. All I need is a broom. I'll just scoop this stuff up. And it's really that easy. Not bad at all. All right, back to it. I'll pick those up for you just a few minutes. The worst part is, honestly, up and down, up and down, up and down, getting staples pulled. We don't have a lot of wind today, which is nice because if you got a lot of wind, doing this on a windy day, it's blowing this stuff all around. Makes it a little bit more difficult to keep track of. I get to this section. I think what I'll do is I'll unroll it from down there back this way. This was a greenhouse frame. Bought a $200 greenhouse off Amazon. Somebody said it's probably a waste of money. They were right. It just shredded the cover, but I left the frame here, kind of used that as support, maybe some shade cloth, some of those kinds of things. Not sure exactly what I'm going to do with it yet, but the frame's still in good condition, so no reason to get rid of that. But with it sitting on this landscape fabric, I'm going to have to probably, like I said, I'm going to go to the other end and unroll this way so I expose the whole roll. And then take a big rock here, set it on this stuff, so try that again, so it doesn't blow away. And that's it. So no sense in you watching me do all this. You kind of get the idea. I will say, somebody asked me, said they bought this same landscape fabric that I have, and they asked me if I tilled up before I laid it down. Now I didn't, because this was an established back to Eden garden. When I started out, I did back to Eden, sheet mulching, whatever you want to call it. So when I first established this garden, I laid down cardboard over the whole thing, then went back over it with a layer of straw about that deep, and then back over it with a layer of compost about that deep, and then back over that with wood chip mulch. And that's how I established this garden. So I eventually moved away from the wood chips just because I can't find enough of them. They break down so quick. They do feed your soil. They're great. I love them, but I can't find enough. So that's when I went to this landscape fabric. So it's still basically the same concept as back to Eden. I just come through, throw compost on it, and then but my top mulch is this landscape fabric instead of like wood chips or something like that. But if you're establishing a brand new garden from lawn, then you probably either need, like I said, sheet mulch it, lay down cardboard, straw, or some kind of organic material, and then compost on top of that, and then lay your fabric over it, or till it up, one of the two. Because if you just lay this right over the top of the grass, I mean, it will kill it eventually, but it's not going to be good to plant into right away. So those are my two suggestions for establishing it if you're going to establish a brand new garden bed. So let me get this stuff picked up here. No sense in you watching me do that. It's the same process. It's just a lot of up and down, pulling staples, rolling up the landscape fabric, and then we'll get to the next step here. Well, I got the cleanup work done, got a full wheelbarrow of sticks and things like that I threw out there on the burn pile, and then got the landscape fabric up, so these beds are opened up, and you can tell, I mean, I don't know how well you can see it in video, but there's no weeds in there. I mean, there's a couple of spots where I've got one or two little plants growing up where there was a crack or a hole in the the landscape fabric, and they're growing up through there, but that's it. None of this Bermuda grass that's in my yard is growing in here. I mean, this does a great job of keeping the weeds under control. So now the only thing left to do is to spread some compost out over here, get some shredded leaves and spread them out over the top of it, and then put that landscape fabric back down. It's a pretty easy way to garden, really. And that's the entire prep process for the garden. So I need to get some compost. I went and got a big load of it this morning, way more than I need, but I'll have some left over for raised beds and some of those kinds of things. So let's get to it. You can see my truck full of compost. We have a compost facility, a city-run compost facility. It's just a fantastic resource. So just went down there and loaded a bunch up. It's a little bit of work, but 5-gallon bucket, scoop it up, throw it in the back of the truck. I always lay a tarp down, just for a couple of reasons. One is it keeps my truck a little bit cleaner. I don't have to wash it out afterwards. And the other reason is as I get some of this compost out of here and start getting back towards that back, I can grab that tarp and pull it forward. I don't have to climb up in the truck and get to it. So, but right now it's all right here, easy to get to. And that's it. This is the easy part. Loading it up is the hard part. I did sift a lot of this compost, but not all of it. We get some trash in here from time to time. Put that over to the side, don't want that in there. But all in all, it's pretty good rich compost. I'm going to start down on this end. It doesn't need a thick layer. Just a layer of compost over the top of this is going to do it. And really, probably, I don't know, 1/4 inch maybe. Just, that's all it's going to need, really. It's plenty of nutrients. Well, probably not a whole lot of fun watching me shovel compost. I mean, this is basically all that I got to do. So, I'll tell you, loading it up was a little bit of work, but you know, I take a 5-gallon bucket out there with me and just scoop it because it's a pretty loose compost pile. Don't even take a shovel. Take a pitchfork in case I need to break some stuff up. But other than that, I mean, it's a great big pile, so I just scoop it up 5 gallons at a time. The hardest part really is sifting it, which is not absolutely necessary, but I did it because, you know, it's city compost. Sometimes there's some trash and things like that in there that I just kind of wanted to get out. Sifting's the hardest part. You probably saw my sifter sitting in the back of the truck back there. So it's just, you know, throw the 5-gallon bucket in there and then shake it like that until all the compost falls through and the solid stuff, you know, you dump out. That's the hardest part of loading up the compost, really. It just kills your back, you know, after a while. But I made it, I managed, and it's a great free resource. I mean, you could definitely go pay for compost. As much compost as I got there is probably about, I don't know, close to $100 worth of compost if you're buying it in bulk. It's probably 2 scoops worth at least, and I think it's going for about $40 a scoop right now. So it's probably $80 to $90 at least worth of compost. Paid for it with some sweat equity, but it didn't take me all that long. It was probably about an hour to load all that up, so not too bad. And I'm just, like I said, I'm just kind of spreading it out over the top of this bed. That's really all there is to it. Focusing primarily on the middle of the bed because, well, that's where the plants are going to be. It doesn't have to be completely covered edge to edge, but all the nutrients from this compost is going to seep down into the ground as it rains and over the course of the season. You know, the whole, you know, the bugs, worms, all that kind of stuff that's in the ground, they're going to come up and pull that in. So it's going to fill the whole bed anyway, one way or the other. I think I've done this pile for the most part. All right, go to load up another one. I got the compost all laid out, and the neighbor's dog's barking, so excuse me for that. I'm sorry. It's going to be noisy probably. Can't help it. Not much I can do. But anyway, the next step, I've got this bucket full of shredded leaves here. I shredded up with my leaf blower. The vacuum part of my leaf blower anyway. I'm just going to spread that over the top of this because it's just extra organic matter. Those will break down pretty quick. They'll feed the soil. And they'll help trap in moisture. You know, you could, if you had enough of this, you could use this as a top mulch because I laid a whole bunch of it out here and I left it uncovered, and even in a strong wind it didn't blow it away. It stayed right there, so it would work well as an overall, you know, mulch if you laid it on thick enough. Now I'm not laying it on that thick, I'm just, you know, kind of sprinkling it on. But this will give something, this will draw the worms in. This will, I don't think I have enough. I think I'm gonna have to get the leaf blower out and go vacuum up some more leaves. But this does provide pretty good organic matter. I got some trash in there. Stick it in my shirt pocket for now. Lots of trash. All right, so let me get this all kind of spread out over the top here. Like I said, it's not going on super thick, just a nice, fairly even layer, just to provide some extra organic matter, and that's it. I'll get this spread out, and then I got to cover it back up. So I don't know if there's any sense in you guys watching me spread a bunch of leaves out. I mean, it's just more of the same of what I just been doing. So I'll come back with you as soon as I get that done. We'll get to the next step. Well, I got this bed completely down, about half of that bed. So I got about half of that bed left to get some leaves down. But I'm gonna go ahead and get this landscape fabric rolled back out, stapled back down over this bed right here. And it's not too windy today, so I should be able to just stretch it completely out. Do it that way. Well, that's it. I got the leaf blower out, vacuumed up some leaves real quick, spread that out over that garden bed over there, and got the ground cover on it. Now this garden's ready to plant into. I don't do any tilling. I don't have to add anything else to it. No fertilizers, nothing. Just some compost, a little bit of organic matter, and it's ready to go. Again, apologize for the neighbor's dog. It's driving me crazy, but not much I can do about it, unfortunately. So, what was I going to say? Oh, one caution I will give you: if you're going to use dry leaves in your garden, they're a fantastic addition to your garden. They add a lot of nutrients. They can help trap the moisture in, help lock it in. They're really good for your garden, but make sure they're shredded up. Don't put, just don't take a pile of dead leaves and spread that out over your garden, because when they're full, before they're shredded up, they can kind of create like a tarp-like effect and not let water through. So you do want to make sure that they're shredded up. If you have a leaf blower that works also as a vacuum and mulches, it's a great way to do it. You can run them over with a lawnmower. I mean, there's lots of different ways to do that. Make sure they're shredded up before you do that, though. That's my only word of caution. So, I guess we'll wrap this up, because I don't want you to have to sit here and listen to the neighbor's dog barking nonstop while I just babble on. But that's pretty much it. That's my whole garden prep. It's ready to plant into. There's not another thing I'm going to need to do. Like I said, I don't use any kind of fertilizers, anything. I just plant into it and go, and it works well. If I just do this every year, a little bit of compost, a little bit of organic matter, some rabbit manure, whatever I've got, and it's good to go. So anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed this video, got to watch me work a little bit, and as always, God bless.